Good evening and thank you for joining us. The number of people living outside in Thunder Bay has nearly tripled over last summer, with even more tents being found by outreach groups this week.
Officials with Elevate NWO estimate nearly 150 people are living outdoors around Thunder Bay, with the lack of affordable housing being called the largest contributor. Cilios Bellos reports.
It's a concerning trend regarding homelessness in Thunder Bay.
Over 140 people living outside and only about 60 days of reasonable weather to go.
Last summer, outreach groups saw a peak of 55 people living outdoors in Thunder Bay, though that number has nearly tripled this year. It's an issue that stretches across Thunder Bay, with groups like Elevate NWO looking at assisting those living outside by bringing them supplies and attempting to get them off the streets. Executive Director Holly Govan believes that's not so simple in a city with a lack of housing, which she sees as the biggest reason for the jump.
Housing that is not affordable is hard to find. When you do find a place, you're in competition with a number of other people who are also looking. Some of those people may have a lot more means than you have. They might be able to pass a credit check where you might not be able to.
To support the homeless population, Elevate outreach workers bring a number of supplies to those in need, including food, tents, and other essentials, though their jobs have gotten much more difficult as numbers have risen this summer.
Honestly, I see a lot of strength out there.
Jonathan Green is one of those outreach workers and says while permanent solutions are difficult, he does what he can on the front lines.
We need more people out there making connections with people and getting them find the right resources to get them off the streets, right? We need more housing. We need so much more, but what we do is what we can do, right?
There are still many who live near encampments that are citing a number of concerns. That includes Brookside Manor Condo Board Director Susan Lester, who says noise, litter, pollution, and drug abuse have become a norm next to her condo on McVicker Creek. While Lester says there are fewer tents this summer, the issues are still significant.
My kudos to all the social agencies. It's a heck of a problem. But what we're trying to do is protect our our quality of life where we are, and the parkland, and the environment.
Lester went on to say she also believes the lack of low-cost housing is a significant factor contributing to the increase. Cilios Bellos, TBT News.
Stunt driving charges in the Northwest region have doubled compared to last year. OPP Constable Matt Foster says from January 1st to July 23rd, their officers charged 84 people with stunt driving. There were 42 charges during the same time frame in 2022.
At speeds like that, your reaction time is less, your stopping distance is significantly less. So it's obviously very concerning, and we want to get our message out and educate the public what stunt driving actually is and what the penalties can be, in hopes that we can see less of these infractions on our roads.
The OPP have been posting photos online of their recent stunt driving arrests. Most of those charges were from driving 50 kilometers over the speed limit, but Foster says stunt driving also includes having all tires not in contact with the highway, driving on the wrong side of the road, and having someone in your trunk. Drivers who are charged with stunt driving will receive an automatic 30-day license suspension and a 14-day vehicle impoundment. Foster says in addition to those penalties, drivers also issued a court summons.
If one is convicted in court of stunt driving, the fine is no less than $2,000 to $10,000. In addition to that, on a first conviction, the convicted driver would be subject to a driving prohibition for no less than 1 year or not more than 3 years. So it's a very serious offense, and which carries very serious penalties, and in the hopes that people are not traveling at these speeds.
The sale has been finalized for the Thunder Bay Pulp and Paper Mill. U.S.-based Atlas Holdings announced its plans in May to purchase the local plant from Resolute Forest Products for $220 million. The closing of the acquisition was announced yesterday for the operation that employs over 400 people. Resolute was forced to sell the mill to a third party by the Canadian Competition Bureau after Paper Excellence announced the purchase of Resolute's assets late last year. Atlas officials say they're looking looking to build upon the mill's heritage as a trusted employer in the region and a reliable industry player. Kent Ramsey, who has served as general manager of the mill since 2019, has been named the president of Thunder Bay Pulp and Paper. The Competition Bureau issued a statement today saying the sale of the Thunder Bay and Dryden paper mills resolves any concerns they had about reduced competition in the craft pulp industry.
A bronze statue of Queen Elizabeth II will soon be installed at the Ontario Legislature.
Siobhan Morris has details on the new statue, including a price tag and timeline.
Queen's Park is getting ready to welcome a new monarch. A foundation is being poured on the building's west side. Here, a statue of Queen Elizabeth II will be installed by the end of the year.
I am very, very excited to be able to honor Her Majesty. She was the Queen of Canada during a time of remarkable change.
The bill to taxpayers is $1.5 million. This is only a small model, but the real deal in bronze on a granite pedestal will be 1.5 times life size.
Prince Philip and I have met many thousands of Canadians.
The sculptor was inspired by how Queen Elizabeth looked delivering the speech from the throne in Ottawa in 1977. There will be a new cape and bouquet of maple leaves, one for each province and territory. The opposition doesn't feel there was enough consultation, including with First Nations communities. This statue is being added in the midst of ongoing debate about which figures in our history deserve to be honored. A statue of John A. Macdonald at Queen's Park's been boarded up 3 years, vandalized during a summer of reckoning on race and reconciliation. Calandra thinks there's space for Ontario to do 2 things.
Without sacrificing the celebrations of the great works that we've done, but also recognizing some of the parts of our history that we might not necessarily be proud of.
Sometimes putting a bigger spotlight on those dark moments.
Some have come to me and said we should have a recognition of residential schools on the grounds of the Legislative Assembly. I completely agree.
The Queen statue is the work of a sculptor who's molded other notable Canadians, from Oscar Peterson to Margaret Atwood, Glenn Gould, and John A. Macdonald.
Anytime they ever put up Caesar or Queen Victoria or any leader of significance, it's not simple.
She invites conversation about the stories of the people we celebrate.
They get shoved forward because of this kind of an endeavor, and that in itself has real value.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Kiiwetinoong MPP Sol Mamakwa is among those saying more consultation was needed before moving ahead with the statue of the Queen.
You know, for me anyway, and perhaps others, it represents colonialism, it represents oppression.
A statue of the Queen celebrates a legacy that Mamakwa says is one of broken treaties and atrocities against Indigenous people, including residential schools and the 60s scoop. He says that perspective should have been considered with Indigenous people being consulted.
There's got to be a process where you have a process on how we're going to design what Queen's Park represents. And I know that, there's a man in a box that's covered at Queen's Park, and it's been covered for about 3 years. And the architect of Indian residential schools, and they don't know what to do with that.
Mamakwa says he wouldn't be surprised to see the new statue of the Queen covered up as well. He wants the government to prioritize instead a memorial to the children who never returned from residential schools.
Thunder Bay icon Elsie McGill has received a prestigious new honor.
The late aeronautical engineer is being immortalized by the Canadian Mint with a special edition loonie, which features her portrait as well as the Hawker Hurricane fighter plane she designed. Joe Sadowski has the story.
Elsie McGill, also known as the Queen of the Hurricanes, was a Canadian trailblazer, not only in our history during the Second World War, but in our history with women's role in society. And now McGill and the Hawker aircraft she designed will be engraved on our Canadian currency, showcased proudly on a new loonie. Former principal of Elsie McGill Public School, Heather Harris, said it's a well-deserved honor and a proud Thunder Bay connection.
Sure, I think it's a really well-deserved honor for Elsie McGill. I think she was an amazing woman with an amazing career, and more she's being recognized for those achievements. It's a different queen on our money, the queen of the hurricanes, so that's pretty special. Her connection to Thunder Bay is a strong one, and certainly that's something our school community has felt.
McGill was the first woman in Canada to graduate with a master's degree in aeronautical engineering. In 1938, she accepted a post as chief engineer at the Cancar plant here in the Lakehead and became possibly the first woman in the world to successfully design an aircraft. There was a ceremony at the Hangar Flight Museum in Calgary this week to unveil the new coin, and Crystal Sissons, a Lakehead graduate and the author of McGill's biography, said it's a long overdue token of recognition.
When I started working on her in 2003, even engineers would say, "Elsie who?" So the concept that we're here today and that people are seeing the unveilment of a commemorative circulation coin by the Royal Canadian Mint, that is fantastic.
McGill helped produce over 1,400 Hawker Hurricanes for the Canadian war effort. 3 million coins are being minted, with 2 million having the colored Hawker Hurricane on it. Harris says McGill is an embodiment for the women's movement because of her achievements.
Well, I think Elsie McGill was a staunch feminist, and she certainly, believed that women could do anything. And there is a Canadian heritage moment of her where she says something like, "I'm an engineer." And so I think that is a really, that's a really strong stance, that she's an engineer first. It didn't matter whether she was a man, woman, how she identified, that she was able to be recognized for her achievements.
These special Elsie McGill coins can be purchased and collected as of today. You can either buy them at the Canadian Royal Mint website or over the phone, and some participating Canada Post outlets are offering them as well. Joe Sadowski, TBT News.
It was one of the hottest days of the summer today, with temperatures reaching a high of 30 degrees in Thunder Bay.
That meant the city's splash pads were packed with parents, kids, and day camps, as they were the perfect place for locals to beat the heat. Mike Lang has the story.
Splashing around was the best way to stay cool on Wednesday afternoon.
Came to the splash pad to have fun and just splash around. We went to Minnesota Park Pool and we had a fun time there. There's a slide and stuff. And then we came here for a bit. Playing in the water, I guess. Yeah, hanging out, having fun. Yeah.
The heat offered the perfect opportunity for family outings at the North End Community Center splash pad, and to cool off even more by gathering in the shade.
We've decided to come to the North End Splash Center. We're having a really fun in the sun day and just having a good family day, staying cool.
We go in the splash pad every second. Because it's really hot outside.
The North End's water slide in particular was a big hit with the kids.
I really like this slide. Going down the slide, the pool.
Marina Park was also packed, as dozens of kids stayed refreshed by splashing around the splash pad, while others enjoyed some ice cream and bonding time with their parents. Hot weather days like Wednesday are favored by kids who love summer.
What's your favorite part about summer?
Going fishing and swimming. My birthday's in summer, and I get to go out to camp a lot and celebrate my birthday in summer instead of the winter.
Others, though, prefer the cold of winter.
I prefer the extreme cold, personally.
I like cold
most of the time.
30 degree for me, for sure.
And some just enjoy the time off.
I don't have to go to school.
My favorite part about summer is there's no school. That's definitely the best part for me.
At 30 degrees, Wednesday's temperature was just 4 degrees shy of the record for August 2nd, set back in 1989. Mike Lang, TBT News.
Well, I'm sure jealous of those kids running through all of that water. It was a hot day out today, and I wish I was them.
I can understand that. If you like the heat, this was a perfect day for you because we had loads of sunshine. Winds were from the south, but very light, just 12 to 22 kilometers per hour. And that humidex reaching 35. Whew, that was definitely hot. In fact, it's still at 35. Now, if we take a look what's going on to the west, more sunshine and similar temperatures. Fort Frances is currently at 31, and they've got a humidex of, I believe, 36 at this moment. 29 in Kenora, Dryden, Atikokan. Red Lake has had kind of partly to mostly cloudy skies off and on throughout the day. They're currently at 28 and a humidex of about 31. So it is a little bit cooler Not a lot, but still very sunny. Now, as we head eastward, we've got some cooling temperatures in Armstrong and Greenstone. They had warmer conditions, but they've had definitely a mixed bag. They've had sunshine, then it's been cloudy. Right now, they've got a pop-up shower that just started in the last half an hour or so. And you can see that it's causing temperatures to drop quite a bit. And it's a system that's just sweeping through the northern portions. Then you head a little bit further south into Nipigon, and they're currently at 31, Marathon at 20. So it's very volatile through the region. So it's no surprise that we're getting those pop-up showers. Sault Ste. Marie currently at 23, has a humidex of 32 at this time, and that's despite mostly cloudy skies. Here in the city of Thunder Bay tonight, we are going to see another mild night, a low of just 18 Celsius. That's quite warm for this time of year. But with all that heat and humidity, as you saw, we've got that cooling air moving around and hitting warmer air, and that causes a pop-up shower. And there is a definite chance of a shower or even a possible thunderstorm in spots. That system will move through for the most part by tomorrow morning, maybe a little bit to the northeast, but Thunder Bay should, for the most part, be out of the line of fire as far as active system. But with the heat and humidity continuing, there's still a chance of another pop-up shower in the afternoon, and I'll have more details on what that will do to your forecast later on in the news hour.
Thanks, Fiona. Well, turning to Canada, huge news as Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is separating from his wife, Sophie. We'll have that details on that and more when we return.
Together, they ushered in a new political era.